Tonight, before you fall asleep, there is a small chance you will feel it, a flicker of something just beyond thought, a sense that the universe is larger than you can hold in your mind, and without planning to, without choosing to, your brain will reach for something. It always does. That reaching has a name, and it is older than language, older than agriculture, older than anything you would recognize as civilization. And the story of how it started is not what you have been told. Because here is the truth most people never hear, that God was not revealed. God was invented. And the moment it happened, everything about being human changed. Your brain is a pattern machine. That is its entire purpose. From the moment you are born, it is scanning, sorting, connecting. It finds faces in clouds. It hears voices in static. It turns a dark hallway into a threat before your eyes can confirm there is nothing there. Psychologists call this tendency hyperactive agency detection. You do not just see the world. You see actors in it. You assume intention behind events. You feel on a deep, wordless level that things happen because something made them happen. This was not a mistake your ancestors made. It was a survival advantage. In a world full of predators, the brain that assumed a rustle in the grass was a lion survived. The brain that stopped to evaluate calmly did not. And so, your lineage, every person in the chain that produced you, was a person whose brain leaned toward seeing agents and intentions everywhere. You inherited that lean. You feel it every time a storm feels personal, every time a coincidence feels like a message. Now take that brain, put it in a world with no explanations, no science, no writing, no accumulated knowledge. Just a human body standing at the edge of a forest 100,000 years ago, watching lightning split a tree. Your ancestor did not know what lightning was, but they knew what it felt like. It felt like something wanted that tree, something powerful, something that could not be seen. That feeling was the beginning. Anthropologist Pascal Boyer spent decades studying how religious ideas emerge across completely unconnected cultures. His research, detailed in his book Religion Explained, found something remarkable. Everywhere humans have lived, in every climate, on every continent, they developed the same basic architecture of belief. Invisible agents with intentions, beings that watch, forces that respond, not because the idea spread from one place, but because the human brain, running the same pattern detection software everywhere, kept arriving at the same conclusion. The idea of God is not a product of culture. It is a product of cognition. And the first version of it was almost nothing like what you picture today. There was no church, no scripture, no afterlife in the modern sense. What there was a feeling, a pressing, urgent feeling that the world was full of presence, that the river had a will, that the mountain noticed you, that the dead stayed nearby, wanting things, needing things, capable of help or harm. Psychologist Jesse Bering has studied what happens in the minds of young children before they are taught religious ideas. What he found is that the tendency to imagine agency in the world, to feel that things happen for a reason and that invisible watchers exist, does not have to be taught. It emerges on its own, from the architecture of the developing brain. Children who have never been told about God still behave as though they are being watched, still feel that important events were meant to happen, still intuitively believe that the mind can exist without the body. You were wired for this. All of us were. But wiring is not destiny. Something still had to happen. Some moment, some specific turning point, when the private flicker of agency detection became shared, became spoken, became ritual. Archaeologists believe they have found traces of that turning point, and it is older than you think. In Turkey, buried under centuries of sediment, there is a site called Göbekli Tepe. It was discovered in the 1990s and has been rewriting human history ever since. It is a complex of carved stone pillars, arranged in circles, covered in images of animals and abstract symbols. And it is 12,000 years old. Not built by an organized civilization, not built by farmers, built by nomadic hunter-gatherers who, for reasons still debated, chose to gather here, to carve, to construct, to maintain a space that had no practical purpose, a space that appears to be ritual. Göbekli Tepe is not a temple in the way you use that word, but it is the oldest structure ever found that appears to be dedicated to something beyond survival, something beyond eating, sleeping, and reproducing, something that required cooperation, coordination, shared purpose, shared belief. It suggests that the spiritual impulse did not emerge after civilization. It may have helped create it. Klaus Schmidt, the German archaeologist who spent 20 years excavating the site, argued that the need to build this place was itself the force that organized the people. That shared ritual, shared belief, shared sense of invisible presence may have been the first technology of cooperation. Before grain, before law, before money, before all the structures that hold societies together, there was this, the feeling that something was watching and the impulse to respond to it together. Think about what that means. The thing you have been told is a product of human civilization may actually be one of its causes. Because belief does something that logic alone cannot do. It creates trust between strangers. It provides a framework for the terrifying randomness of the world. Crops fail. Children die. Winter comes. Without an explanation, that randomness is not just painful. It is paralyzing. But if the crops failed because the river spirit was displeased, then you have something to work with. You have agency. You have action available to you. You can make an offering. You can change behavior. You can survive the feeling that the universe is indifferent because your belief tells you it is not. And that is the key thing. Belief in invisible agents did not make humans weaker. It made them more functional. It replaced unbearable randomness with pattern. It replaced social isolation with shared meaning. It replaced existential paralysis with ritual action. Your brain is still doing this right now. Not necessarily in the form of organized religion, but in the way you feel that certain events were meant to happen. In the way you knock on wood or avoid stepping on cracks or feel that today is going to be a good day because everything this morning went right. In the way loss feels personal, as though the universe is sending a message. In the way hope feels like more than probability, like something out there is listening. You did not learn those feelings. They came with the brain. And the brain did not learn them from culture. Culture learned them from the brain. Anthropologist David Lewis Williams, who studied the cave art of early Homo sapiens, found evidence that some of the oldest human images, the animals and symbols painted in firelight on cave walls 30,000 years ago, were not art in the decorative sense. They were attempts to communicate with something, to make contact, to mark the boundary between the visible world and whatever was felt to exist beyond it. Those artists did not have words for what they believed. They were not part of a religion. They were not following a doctrine. They were responding to something their brains told them was there, something enormous and close and aware of them, and they reached toward it the only way they could, with their hands, with pigment, with fire. You are descended from those people. You carry their brains, and on a quiet night, when the world gets still enough, something in you reaches too. It might be toward a God you were raised with. It might be toward nothing you can name. It might just be the feeling, wordless and ancient, that you are not entirely alone in the universe. That feeling is not a delusion. It is not a weakness. It is the oldest surviving technology in the human toolkit. The one that helped your ancestors endure, cooperate, create meaning, build something worth passing down. Tonight, before you fall asleep, if you feel it, that flicker just beyond thought, know this: it is not new. It has been there for 100,000 years, long before anyone gave it a name, long before anyone built a temple or wrote a word or lit a candle. It was already there, in a brain just like yours, standing at the edge of a forest, watching lightning, reaching for something that felt impossibly like it might reach back.